Hey there. Welcome to RGS Live, my first one. Sorry for the late start. Had some last minute technical problems. Only when I tried to go live, I discovered one thing didn't work. So I had to go back, set it up. Anyway, we're here and we are live. Are you live, Ami?
I'm here. Hello.
This is Ami. I'm Tomas. Ami is a musician in her own right, but she's going to act as my guitar student for today. She asked some great questions. And by the way, she's also manning the chat, so she'll be the one responding to you. Normally, I do what do you call that? A raffle. We do a raffle each month for people in my membership site. And I realize now that I made the raffle contingent on completing a certain number of things, and they can't actually complete the last one until today. So nobody's completed it yet. So I'm going to do 2 raffles next month. And it'll be back to normal. It's this February short month thing. I didn't quite catch that. So, but I've got some great stuff. There's some great questions already. And feel free to ask questions while we're going. Ami will see the questions, and towards the end, I'll answer questions that come up on the chat. So be patient. If you ask a question, know that she'll actually get to it as time goes on. So let me start out. I want to start with just a brief training. And it has to do with questions I've been asked many times. I'm going to show you just a quick warm-up routine. Now, before I start, let me say that this isn't the absolute warm-up for everybody. What I'm more interested in is showing you how to set up a warm-up routine and basically what it looks like, along with some of the things that I'll be paying attention to as I'm having Ami warm up on her guitar. So I'll explain a little bit as we go as well. So to start off with, this is going to warm-up routine will have 3 elements to it. I'm going to start off with a simple finger exercise. So I'm sorry, not a finger exercise, a string exercise. And I'm going to use a pick. You can use your fingers or your pick. I'm using this guitar because I can use both on it. And the idea is to hit each string 4 times with down, up picking. And then go on to the next one. Now what I'm practicing here is picking and changing strings. That's where people get messed up, is when they go from one string to another. So make sure and have your pick, if you're using a pick, kind of loosely in your fingers, but not so it'll slip out. And you can either keep your wrist flat or point it in slightly, depends. When you're strumming and brushing strum, usually I point it in a little bit and relax your wrist. If I'm picking, I'll usually kind of tighten up a little bit, but still my arm is relaxed. It's just tightening up on the pick. So,
question.
Yes.
If we're not using a pick, when I strum up, what am I using?
When you're not using a pick for this exercise, you usually use 2 fingers.
Aha.
So you're just alternating.
Got it.
Okay, so here's the exercise. 4 times, then switch. Now we're going to go back. Go to the 2nd string, 3rd string, 4th string, 5th string. Good. Now a couple of things. You want to try to stay nice and even and go as slow as you need to get it right. Don't go fast and have to stop and go to the next string. Next is you want to put just enough pressure to get through the string so it sounds nice and clear. And that's what you're doing with this kind of warm-up. It gives you a chance to prepare yourself mentally to pay attention to the details. Then when you start practicing and working on new songs and stuff, you put more of your attention on learning something new. But hopefully the warm-up each day will little by little improve your technique. So we're going to do it again, and I'm going to start from scratch. Are you using a pick?
No.
You want to try your 2 fingers?
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
Okay, couldn't tell.
Should I use my thumb or my first 2?
No thumb. 2 fingers and alternate like walking.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, you want to try to hit with the tip of your finger.
Okay.
And keep your fingers just slightly curved. Not straight exactly, but not super curved either.
Got it.
That'll give you a good full sound. If you do curve them more, it gives you a little twangier sound. Not bad, but just a different sound.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay, let's do this again.
Okay.
1, 2, ready, start. Next string, it's the A string, D string, that's the fourth string. Third string, G, now we're going to B, that's second string. Good. High E, back. If I were warming up, I'd probably do this about 5 times, and I'd pick a speed that was where I was at, so that would be different for every person. The next exercise, now we're going to start involving the left hand. It looks like this. The same picking motion in the right hand. Open, first fret, second fret, third fret, pinky, and then the next string. And you keep alternating picking in the right hand. When you're first learning this exercise, I will recommend that you just down pick or maybe use your thumb or one finger, because we don't want to concentrate on 2 things at once. Start with the left hand. So open string, low, E. First fret now, first finger. Second finger, second fret. Third finger, and pinky. It's meant to be a stretch. It's a stretching exercise. So if you're not stretching, your guitar is probably too small. I don't know. Most everybody is stretching when they're first learning this. Now, let's go on the 5th string. First fret, second fret, third fret, and pinky. Going on to the 4th string, D string. Yes. So I'm not worried about tempo right now. I'm just getting her to get the fingers in the right place. Good. Next string. Good. I'm watching that she's keeping her fingers fairly close to the frets so the notes sound good. Oop, too much talking there. Second string. First finger. Yeah. If it goes on the fret, it'll start muting out. And pinky. And finally the first string. I'm looking that her hand is fairly relaxed too. She's tensing too much. She won't be able to do this very much. So let's stop there. Normally, what I would do is have a student get to where they can go all the way down from the low string to high and then back to the low string. But we're going to do just one way for today, because that's the way I would want somebody to start. And this is new for Ami. She's never done this. Yeah. So we're going to do it again. This time, I'm going to push towards trying to keep it even. I was just trying to make sure she got her fingers in the right place. Now I'm looking that her thumb is behind the neck, and it was looking pretty good. If you stretch it over like this, you can't really stretch up here. So thumb behind the neck, and kind of relax your arms hanging down. And again, this is an opportunity to pay attention, especially once you know this exercise. Pay attention to the little details, and they'll transfer over into your playing. Here we go. Start with the 6th string again. Ready, go. Open, first fret, second fret, third fret, pinky. Next string, open A. First finger, second finger, third finger, pinky. Next, first finger, second, open third. Yeah, that's pretty good. First time doing this. Second string. Now don't be surprised if it's your first time, it's not as easy as she's making it look. And first string. So this exercise is particularly good for practicing getting your finger in the right place and getting a good sound. You want to go as slow as you need to do that, and then pick up little by little. Don't start off just going fast and not paying attention. You're not really getting the benefit from the exercise. Now we're going to do it one more time, and I'm going to do down up picking in my right hand. This would be a next step if you're just learning this. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, hit it. Down, up, down. I'm picking in my right hand. Pinky, next string. See, now that takes a little practice getting the picking right. Next string. Good, pinky. Next string. Second string. Okay, very good.
Thank you.
I'm impressed.
That's a challenge.
So, any place you are, it's just fine. If this is hard for you, there is an easier version of this where you don't use your pinky. And if you're brand new to guitar, that's probably where I would start you and add the pinky over time. Now I'm going to go to the third exercise in our warm-up. And normally, of course, this will go much faster once you know the exercises. Matter of fact, it'll probably take about 5 minutes total. But today it's taking longer because I'm teaching it. We're going to do a chord exercise. This is, I call it a two-chord key change. Because I'm playing two chords that belong in the same key and then I'm changing key. Don't worry if that doesn't make sense too much. I kind of want you to hear that and then put that together with what I'm doing. We're going to play a series of chords. And by the way, if you don't know these chords yet, it's fine. You might even pick the ones that you know and just work with those. Do a modified version of this exercise. If you know these chords, it's a good warm-up. We'll start with an open E chord. That looks like that. The second and third finger together. That's A minor. Move everything lower one string. Yes, that's
okay.
E.
Okay.
So I'm going to strum that twice. Now I'm going to do B7, and that's a good chord in the key of E. And that looks like this. I got my second finger on the 5th string, first finger on the 3rd string, 4th string, sorry, 1st fret. Now, usually I play a version that uses my pinky, but today I'm going to leave off the pinky. It still sounds good. And then we'll go back to E. Now I'm going to change this to E7, and in my ear, that's what I meant about changing key. Once I change this to E7, I'm changing to a different key, actually the key of A, and you'll see what I mean. Just take off the 3rd finger, E7, now to A. I play A this way or this way, whichever one is comfortable for you. So I've got 3 fingers, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers on the 2nd fret, starting with the 4th string, 3rd string, and 2nd string.
Got it.
Yeah. Now I change that to A7, which is again changing the key. That's why I call it 2-chord key change. Take off the middle finger. That becomes A7 to D. We're in the key of D all of a sudden. Good. Oh, she knows D chord.
Yeah.
I'm doing the 2nd fret, the 1st and 2nd finger on the 1st string. And then in between on the 2nd string, the 3rd finger. And again, if you don't know all these chords, I wouldn't expect you to get them all the first time around. Pick the ones you know, or just a few if you don't know them. Work on those and then add one at a time. Now we're going to change this to D7, again changing the key. D7, I put my 1st finger on the 1st fret, 2nd string, and then straddle those 2 strings again, the 3rd string and the 1st string with my 2nd and 3rd fingers. D7, which will go to the G, which we're in the key of G now. G for a lot of people is one of the more difficult chords. A lot of people make it like this. You can actually make it with just 1 finger on the 3rd fret, 1st string. And just play the 4 top strings. Now we're going to go to G7, again changing keys. 1st finger. I normally play it like that, but if you're starting out, it's perfectly fine to do the 1 finger G7. Now that goes to C. C is one of the more popular chords. 1st finger on 2nd string, 1st fret. Over to the 4th string, 2nd fret. And then 5th string, 3rd finger, 3rd fret. Good. Now the C7, put the pinky down on the 3rd string, 3rd fret. And that turns it to yep, she's counting. And now to F. This is one of the harder chords for beginners to get. If it's easy for you, still a good warm-up. I'm doing a partial bar F. Oh, she's done this.
Ukulele. It's a B flat chord on the ukulele.
So I'm doing a partial bar on the first 2 strings on the 1st fret. My 2nd finger is stretching over to the 3rd string, 2nd fret. 3rd finger over to the 3rd fret on the 4th string. I'm just hitting these top 4 strings. So usually it sounds like this when you first do it. That's okay. It's a start. Then back to C. 7.
There it is.
Pinky down. So let me see. The next side goes. And then it ends on F. Just to end on a high note. Okay. So that's your whole exercise. It's really very simple. And especially if you already know the chords. If you don't, do whatever part of the exercise makes sense, and then expand it little by little. Let's do it one more time. We're going to do it starting with E, 2 chords. Just do the best you can. E chord, good. Twice. To B7, we'll do the 3-finger B7.
Okay.
So I got my first finger on the 4th string, 1st fret. Yeah, and then the rest fall into place. Back to E. Now E7, take off the 3rd finger. To A. 2nd finger off, A7. To D. That's on the 2nd fret, and the 3rd finger's on the 3rd fret. To D7. 1st finger over the 1st fret, yeah. To G. We'll do that. I'll do this G. Good. And then G7. Good. To C. Yes. And the 3rd finger's on the 3rd fret, 5th string. Yeah. To make it a C7 with a pinky down. F chord now, the famous F chord. You could even make it like this if you want a stepping stone. C7, back to the C. Oh, make your 2nd finger go on the 4th string, 2nd fret.
That one.
Yeah. And back to F twice. Okay. Good.
That's
so
tricky.
That's your warm. Do you feel warmed up?
Yes, I'm hot.
It's getting kind of hot in there. Maybe it's I'm getting it from her. Okay. So now I go into a section where we're going to answer some questions. And we've got a bunch of questions already people have submitted ahead of time. I'll start there. And then time permitting, I'll answer questions that people are asking now live. So what's that first question?
Yeah, we have quite a few. First one is from Michael. Michael says, why does the intervals, or do the intervals move half step at a time until you reach the perfect 5th, which moves up a whole step, and then it goes back to the half step at a time?
So I'm imagining for some people, intervals, what? Perfect 5th? Let me give a quick overview of that. And don't worry if this doesn't make sense. Sometimes you have to hear it a few times. Normally with a student, I would start with a few intervals, show them the importance of them. Intervals are spaces between notes. So an interval on the guitar is this is a note, and this is the next note. The space between that first note and the second one is an interval. In this case, that would be 1 half step. Half step on the guitar equates to 1 fret. So if I were here, let's do this more easy to see, and went to here, that would be a half step. We also have other names for the intervals, called minor second, major second, minor third, major third, and so on. I won't go into the whole minor major thing, and there are some called perfect. The idea is that each of these intervals, so 1 step is 2 frets, and that would be called a major second. They all have other names. Michael is asking, when you get up to a perfect 5th, that means minor second, minor third, I'm going from here, major third. He says there's nothing there at the half step. There is something there. And it's called a tritone or a augmented 4th. There is an interval. A half step is a minor second. A whole step is a major second. 1.5 steps is a minor third. This is a major third. That's 2 full steps or 4 half steps. 5 half steps is an augmented 4th. That's the 4th. 1 more half step is an augmented 4th. And then the perfect 5th. Perfect 5th, by the way, is a very common interval. You hear it all the time in music. Na, da. That's a perfect 5th. Da, da, da. To an octave. So, on the guitar, you can see that more easily from, let's say, this note here, that's a 3rd fret. If I go to here, that's a perfect 5th. You hear that a lot in bass lines. Boom. The root and the 5th, or the bass note, the main note of the chord, and the 5th, perfect 5th. That augmented 4th is right here. It's traditionally in history called the tritone, or the devil's tone, devil's interval, because it's so dissonant. Yeah. Dissonant meaning it's like harsh. But it has a very good place. It's often what creates movement in chord movement. So, I'm going to stop there because I don't want to go into a big, long theory lesson, but I hope that answers Michael's question.
Yeah,
at least.
Definitely. Cool. And we have a little comment and question here from Tom. I'd appreciate any tips on how to use more varied strumming while playing. I know most good guitar players don't use the same strum continuously through a song. They stop and start, change up the strum, pause, and let a chord ring, etc. I'd like to learn how to add that to my playing, but it doesn't seem to come naturally. Do you have any suggestions?
That's a great question because really when I'm strumming on the guitar, I teach a variety of basic strums, starting with a very basic one down. But I don't really strum exactly the same throughout a whole song. Even that one strum, if it sounds the same, I'm doing down, down, up, down, down, down. If you only do one strum to a whole song, it sounds okay. And that's one of the reasons that I don't spend a lot of time trying to get people to switch up strums in the middle of a song. Because you get 90% of the benefit by just getting a good smooth strum. And that's by far, I consider, the priority is to get a nice smooth strum that doesn't sound harsh, rather than thinking about how to change it up to make it more interesting. But when you're there, one of the things you can do is, first of all, practice some different strums, and then see which ones kind of fit together. This is the kind of thing you really need to do in actual practice. Mm-hmm. If you can jam with somebody else and actually try experimenting with changing it up a little bit, that helps. Mm-hmm. A more practical way for most people is to try playing along with jam tracks. Yeah. When you play along with jam tracks, you get a chance to strum along and keep time, which is important. And at the same time, you experiment without feeling the pressure or embarrassment of playing with other people.
Yeah. You
can always basically vary the strum slightly. So for example, if I'm just doing a basic strum, you can always go, I just basically, instead of doing a down, down, up, I did a down, down, up, down, up, down, up. That's such a subtle variation, it's not going to hurt. You can decide if it's worth paying attention to that, and over time it becomes a habit. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, you try playing along with songs on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because then you kind of get a chance to see what actually fits with the song, what fits with the mood and the feel. Mm-hmm. Think of not just varying the strum, but varying the dynamics, a little harder, a little softer. Within the strum, I'm often using some dynamics, by the way. I'm maybe a little harsher on the way down, a little softer on the way up. And that creates a little more movement. One way to create a softer sound is to not hit all the strings. Notice I hit them all the way down on the way down, but on the way up I only kind of brush along the top string. So it's down. That gives a little movement even within the same strum. So there's some ideas. Not a quick fix. There is no quick fix. Practice. Try it with YouTube. Try it with some jam tracks, play along tracks. If you get a chance to jam with some friends, watch what they're doing too. And as you play along, try doing some things you see other people do.
Yeah. Can I offer an idea
Please,
too? I teach ukulele, and one thing that I do for a lot of my beginner students is we'll take a song and break it up by verse and by chorus. So the chorus is the part that repeats, throughout the song. And so what we'll do is sometimes we'll choose two complementary strums, use one for all the verses and one for all the choruses. And the reason I do that is it gives people a little bit of an idea of how to go back and forth between different strumming patterns and still keeping it smooth.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's a good little stepping stone. I wouldn't say it's the end all be all, but I know a lot of my students like to do that on the uke, so I'm assuming you can do that on the guitar as well.
Definitely, and
yeah.
a lot of this is sort of like integrating something where you have to pay attention at first, then it becomes a habit and you have more control. You can kind of, as you're playing along, once you have more control, like you were saying, consciously doing it in the verse and the chorus, but as you develop more control, you can just kind of go with the feeling. This should be a little stronger, or this should change up a little different strum.
Yeah, exactly. Listening to music is definitely a big help in that. playing along. So I'm
Hearing
just
what
listening.
other people are doing.
Actually, one of my students one time, I had a full assignment where they had to just listen to 3 songs over the week and identify 2 different strums from each.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'm stealing that.
Go ahead, you can borrow it. Okay, we have another question here from Hildebrando. It says, do you know of an app that allows me to convert or translate from a regular music score into tablature? I want to practice music scores. I have, but I can't read music yet.
There is an app called Sibelius, and it does just that.
Sibelius.
Now, the trick is, though, is in any app would be getting the music into the app so you can convert it. Sibelius has a program that's comes with, I think it comes free, actually. I've never used it. It's called Photo Light or Photo something. The idea is you use it to scan whatever sheet music you have, so it's in Sibelius. And once it's in there, you basically press a button and it'll create the tab for the music. But I will say it's not cheap. Sibelius is hundreds of dollars, depending on how you get it. There's different versions, educational. And anyway, it's probably, for most people, going to be easier to just do a web search and find the tab for that music.
Yeah.
I would think. I probably wouldn't even though I have Sibelius, I wouldn't go through the trouble of scanning something in, except in very unusual circumstances. Yeah. I would just do a web search until I found the tab for the music.
Yeah, same here.
Or I'd write it out, but that's not an option for everybody.
Okay. Duncan says, I know you have shown how to accomplish bar chords, but I seem to have a real problem accomplishing this. And we also have someone that's live on YouTube that kind of complimented that and said, having questions about changing between bar chords. So the whole bar chords thing.
Bar chords are an ongoing issue. They are certainly one of the, if I had to pick a handful of the stumbling blocks, bar chords are top of that list or somewhere towards the top. I've created a lesson on YouTube and on my membership site, even a whole program on bar chords. The couple of keys I would say at bar chords is you need to prepare. Don't just go, especially, this is what a lot of people do. They need an F chord, so they immediately start trying to do the F chord. It's actually one of the hardest bar chords, but they need it. And so they start trying to play it. It doesn't sound good. And they get frustrated and start tensing more and pressing harder, which actually makes it worse because it's making your muscles do things that aren't going to really solve the problem in the long run. First of all, prepare for bar chords. Spend some time working towards them, doing some exercises that prepare. One of the exercises I use is I call it a bar chord exercise. I just have students go 1 fret at a time and bar with just the finger, forget the chord part, along the first fret to start with, and just see how you can get the strings to sound. Spend just a couple of seconds and move on to the next one. By the way, it's a simple version of it. There is a more extensive version on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, you can search for it in my videos. Bar chord exercise, I think we'll get it. And then so on, all the way till you get up, around in here. There's not an exact place. I normally stop around the 10th fret and then go backwards. Your fingers will be sore after that. Do that a little every day. You're strengthening the finger. You're also training to get the sound. And you want to add to that, start naming the notes on the 6th string because you'll need that when you start playing bar chords. So that's a F, F sharp, G, and so on. You can look that up. The second thing with bar chords, there's a couple of tips. When you make the bar, first of all, make sure this knuckle is not down. That makes it really hard to get the strings to sound when your knuckle's down. Make it at least flush. In other words, this last knuckle. And you can even pop it up a little bit. Some people can, some people can't. Everybody has a little different hands. So this will make it really hard. Keep that knuckle up in the air.
Got it.
And now, second tip, angle this finger back just a little bit. Roll it back a little bit. A little bit. It's easier to keep it straight than when this curves really easy, but when you angle it back, see, it doesn't curve so easy, a little bit on the side. Now, the reason I created within my membership site something called Bar Chord Bootcamp is because it prepares you step by step. And I've had so many people ask about this. Step by step, doing the exercise, the simpler bar chord forms, putting them together, and then gives you things to practice along with. Again, the main key there is just do it a little each day and do it in steps. Don't try to jump to the main bar chord. By the way, the reason I said the bar F is the hardest bar chord is because it's harder as you get closer to the nut because of tension on the string. And the F chord's all the way there by the nut. If you're going to start, an easier bar chord would be an A because there's much less tension right in the middle of the neck on the string. Much easier to press down.
Got it. That makes sense. Cool. Okay. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Savta, I believe, said, how do I incorporate the bass runs into songs? Could you play a complete song using alternate bass notes and bass runs as an example?
Okay, so last month I taught bass runs, basically this. Adding bass notes to chords. Bass notes can be two things. They can be alternating bass notes within the chord. This would be an example. I'm just alternating between two different bass notes. Or it can be bass runs, notes that connect two chords together. So, one good example of this is I'm going to use Happy Birthday.
Okay.
And because everybody knows that song, and it's also simple 3 chords. I'll do it in a G chord. So Happy Birthday might sound like this. Do you think you can sing this?
Yeah.
Happy birthday. So I'll cut. Not yet.
Oh.
To you. Okay, we'll start over now.
Okay.
Now I'm going to do the bass run for that. Happy birthday to. So now I'm doing on the D. I'm just alternating. Happy. Watch this. Here comes a bass run. Happy birthday. Yeah, hey. This is the alternate I use for C. Birthday. So last month I did those bass runs, and you can go back to the month of January and see that live video also for the more details. If you're a member, by the way, I will actually give you the sheet music to that Happy Birthday with the actual notes and tabs written out, and you can download that from the membership site, from the live portal. Yeah. Also, I noticed there was a second question there.
Yeah, what do I do if the chords in the song are not G, C, and D?
Well, first of all, just knowing what chords to use for different songs is a matter of learning chords, and I would recommend learning chord families. What that means is if you want to change key on this song, learn the chords that go with a new key. So A, D, I could play Happy Birthday by choosing different chords in the key. Knowing the bass notes, I would practice few chords, get a feel of that, and then add as you go along. So for example, the easiest way to practice chords is to start with just the bass note of the chord. Find the bass note. The bass note's the same as the name of the chord. So if I'm playing an A chord, the bass note is A. Try that. A chord.
Okay. A chord was like this.
Play the A chord this way. There's many versions of A chord. 3 fingers together.
Oh yeah.
So the A would be, the bass note would be this 5th string. So for example, D, play your D chord. That would be the D note. So if you're doing a bass strum, and if you're using a pick, it'd sound like this. Once you get that facility, the next step would be adding an alternate bass note. So for example, D, the alternate would be this low A string. And it's different for every chord, so I can't tell you a formula. If you know music theory, the alternate bass note that you would want to choose is the 5th of the chord. Mm-hmm. But for most people, that would be quite a mouthful to figure out what's the 5th of the chord. Better to just look up the bass note, the alternating bass note for the chord. One way you could do it, by the way, is if you take a chord and count up 5. That's one way to figure out the bass note. So in the D chord, D is the 1, the root note. And if you count up 5, D, E, F, G, A, that's 5.
Yep.
Thank you. I don't know if it's backwards or not. 5. D, E, F, G, A.
Yeah.
5. So the A note, and then you need to know which one's the A note. So listen to this. This is what I'm aiming at. Alternate. Then alternate. I would take that as a next step with the chords that you already know the bass notes of. Now the next step would be to start adding some notes between, I'll call them bass rods. That, if you're still struggling with the basic bass note, is probably going to be, now I'm asking you to do something that's just going to confuse you more. Generally speaking, I would use my ear and listen to what notes sound good running between chords. But theoretically speaking, it all has to do with the scale that the key's in. Right. So if I'm in the key of G, I take the G scale and pick notes that are in that scale to go to the next chord. Those are all notes right out of the G scale. If you're not used to scales, you might want to try learning the G scale if you're working with G chords, and then seeing which notes sound good to you out of that scale in between bass notes. That's kind of a short version. We could make a whole course out of this. Of course, we won't do that today, but just know that if this is a little bit confusing, I tried to cram a lot into, 10 minutes?
Yeah, that's a lot.
Okay.
Let's see. I did have one question from one of our YouTube folks. They said how to learn finger strumming as a beginner. So finger picking.
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah.
First of all, I would start very simple, and I'll give you sort of the beginning steps. I would pick a chord that you're fairly comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with chords yet, I'd learn the chords first. At least, I'm talking 3 chords. You don't have to learn all the chords, but get 3 chords that you reasonably can play and sound decent. Then start with your thumb on the bass note of the chords. It's good since we just talked about bass notes. And for a D chord, it's often the one people learn at first. So I'll say D, you pick the D bass note. Put your first and second finger on the top 2 strings of your guitar. So the first finger will go on the second string and the second finger will go on the first string. And just prop them there. So what you're going to do is press down on the bass note, then pull up with your first finger and pull up with your second finger. Sorry, I hit the wrong bass note. Here we go. Bass, first finger, second finger. This is a very simple picking pattern.
Wow, got it backwards.
Bass, first finger, second finger. Bass, first finger, second finger. So get to where you can do that with a relaxed hand. Pull your fingers into your palm. Don't pick them out. So notice my hand's not moving at all when I do this. So my hand's not jumping out at all. I'm pulling my fingers in. When you jump out, it makes a funny twangy sound. The more you do it, the twangier it is. Then do that with the 3 chords and make a picking pattern. Then add your third finger and put the 3 fingers on the first 3 strings, and you're going to do this basic pattern. First finger, second finger, and third finger. Bass. And again, what you're practicing here is even and relaxed hand, because that'll set you up a nice foundation for doing more elaborate stuff. Then over time, you'll expand on that. Or that's just several steps above that basic. So what a lot of people do is they jump into more complicated things, they make their hand tense, then nothing ever quite sounds good. Even if they get the pattern reasonably well, it doesn't sound good because it's so harsh. Start with a good basic foundation, stay relaxed, and then keep adding, again, step by step.
Cool.
Just meant to be a starter. It sounds like somebody's just getting started with the finger picking.
Yeah, definitely. And somebody else asked how they can remember the tab tone. I'm not exactly sure what that means.
I don't know what that means either. Maybe if you want, you can try and explain it again in the chat. And if we see that before we close, I can try and answer it. But that so far, I don't know what that actually means.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think those are all the questions we have for right now.
Okay. I think we're just about out of time for today, too. I really appreciate all of you for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. This is brand new technology, by the way. Pui, can you switch cameras a little bit? We've got 2 cameras going. In the past, I've always had 1 camera, and it's live streaming as well. So I'm going to keep adding and improving on this. Next month, we always do this on the first Thursday of the month, usually at 12 noon, unless I get an overwhelming request for a different time. So next month, count on another one, and even probably some extra new equipment. Hopefully that all works right. And you can always submit questions ahead of time, and I'll try to answer them within the live presentation. For those of you who are part of my membership program, you can download some of the notes from today, as well as I'll give you a kind of edited version of this video with the highlights. Thanks again for joining me. Hope to see you again next month.
Bye.
Bye-bye.